we're going to follow a minhag that's old. A new one, it's easier to say, oh, look, we already have the established halakha. Forget it, it's out the window. Rabbi Yosef Karo in his introduction to Beit Yosef, he writes, I'm going to write now halachic work to make all the Torah one, because everybody has so many confusions about the halachas. But you know what my book is not about? I'm not trying to uproot minhagim. I was very smart, and it became very accepted that way. That every now and then you see, even Chacham Avadi will accept a minhag that's against Shulchan Aruch, it's very, very old. So there are things that, once in a blue moon, but there are some things like that that are very, very old. Okay? I want to make a distinction, and we're going to describe this a little bit more, between a halakha that there is a minhag on a stringency and a minhag about a halakha. What we're talking about previously is when there's a clash between a minhag and halakha. They're two totally different things, because really there's halakha, there's disputes in halakha, and then the minhag is like taking a side on that. So over there we have a discussion we talked about a lot last time. That's one type of minhag. Minhag that are outside of halakha and clash with halakha. There's a totally different type of minhag. There's a minhag about something that's already halachic, and the minhag is not an extra stringency, or the minhag is not entirely separate from the halakha, clashing with the halakha. It's taking a side on something that's already established. So one more time, the first type of minhag is a minhag that's outside of halacha and sometimes clashes with halacha and sometimes accepts the halacha, or it's a good thing for halacha. And then you have a different type of minhag is on top of the halacha. So just in a nutshell, we're going to see the word minhag means a lot of those types of things, but usually when we're really talking about classic minhag, it really means the first type of minhag. Minhag that really has nothing to do with the halacha. And then we talk about minhag, mevatel halacha, not mevatel halacha. That's like wearing kippah. That's a minhag. Or waiting, waiting after you eat hard cheese for Ashkenazim. Something that has no basis particular in the halacha. That's a minhag, pure minhag. Then you have a minhag. Do you wear tefillin on Chol Moed? That's a minhag. Ashkenazim, Sephardim, but it's not a minhag. There's nothing to do with minhag. That's not a kinyot is a good minhag. It's pure minhag. There's nothing in the Gemara about it. What's not a pure minhag is wearing tefillin on Rosh Chodesh or opening bottle caps on Shabbat. Could you open a bottle on Shabbat? It has nothing to do with minhag Sephardi Ashkenazi. It's to do with halacha. What do you think? Is this mutar, asur? The Stei Chemet says if your father held one thing as a halacha, mutar, asur, you can open bottles on Shabbat. You can't open bottles on Shabbat. Your children do not need to follow that. Why? Because that's not a minhag. That's a chumrah or a kula. That's a psak. That's a halacha. So minhagim could sometimes take stances on halacha, like one opinion versus the other opinion, but that's not essentially a minhag at all. Okay? Those are just stances in halacha, and those can easily change. It's just basically based on the halachic opinion that you're going to follow. Okay? Does that make sense, this distinction? Hopefully we're going to come back to it. Okay, now I want to go back to the Radvaz for our third question. Sharing my screen. Here we go for the Radvaz. Third question, 1500s again, in Egypt. So we just talked about the Radvaz telling us about breaking the halacha, because of minhag now we have the opposite trend in the Radvaz. He says, look, minhags are very important. The last Shuvah, he saw his appreciation for minhag. He said minhag can even break the halacha sometimes. When we have a clash, minhag wins. Now comes the Radvaz and different Shuvah and says the opposite. He says, look, we have during 3 weeks and Sfira to Omer, a minhag not to cut our hair. What about Rosh Chodesh? During Sfira? So leave out the 3 weeks for now, but he says, oh, for Rosh Chodesh it's allowed. Why are you allowed to cut your hair? Because it's a Kavod Rosh Chodesh. So he in fact says that's allowed. Now it's a big discussion today if we do that. Sephardim usually keep the first 33 days, and the Radvaz did that as well. But he broke the Sfirah for 1 day for Rosh Chodesh itself. Some Sephardim still do that today. Chacham Avadi says for someone who really needs to shave, for work, whatever, you can bring in Rosh Chodesh. Yeah, that's a factor. But the Radvaz says, why would I allow it? But the minhag was not like him. So he says, look, since anyway, it's not so. Anyway, there is some who have a minhag to shave on Rosh Chodesh, and some who don't. So he says, and he explains, look, the Rosh Chodesh is a happy day. It's a mini holiday. Look, you're not supposed to, you don't say tachanun on that day. Asur b'hesped tanit. Ikari Yisur at Tisbur Ena Min Adin El Minhag Aiti Minhag Mivalta Minhag B'Tameh Kol Dehu. All you need is a shmek, a tiny little bit, a morsel, a crumb of a reason to uproot a minhag. Look, he said Rosh Chodesh is a special day. There's no minhag to shave on Rosh Chodesh every Rosh Chodesh, but it's a nice day. We don't say Tachanon. Oh, if it's a nice day, special day, we should make sure you can even shave, even if it means during the Sfirat Omer when we have a minhag. Why? Because one minhag comes, a new minhag can come and uproot the old minhag. All you need is a Tam Koldu, a tiny reason. So you're going to see now, why is that true, that a tiny reason could uproot a minhag? We're going to see right now the opposite of the pendulum swing, but usually if a minhag is so important, we speak a lot about minhag and minhag Yisrael Torah, why is it all of a sudden sometimes allowed to give a tiny reason and then break the minhag? Okay? First question was why the femininity of minhag. Second question is, how does it make sense? Why is Torah allowed to change? And the third one is why sometimes we just give, and this is classic in the poskim. Sometimes we do this, sometimes not, but it's classically in the poskim, minhag we treat much less stringently than Torah law. The Chazon Sofer takes the opposite approach. Sometimes we're talking about the conservatives changing the tefillah from Hebrew to English, to German. He says, minhag is deraisa. Of course, how dare you try to change minhag? Okay. But classically, we think like this Radvaz. Okay, those are the three questions. Now I want to bring up the story. Any questions or thoughts before I begin? Here is the meat and potatoes. So the Marshal, we're going to speak about a little bit. Basically, same time as the Radvaz, who lived on the other side of the world. Radvaz was in Egypt. Radvaz was living in Poland. In Poland, well, not just Poland, in Lithuania. In Lithuania was the Radvaz. It was the Marshal. Marshal was Shlomo Luria, middle 1500s, first cousins of the Ramah, Ramosha Israelis, very, very famous. And on the other side, he was cousins with another Luria. Anybody know? The Rav Yitzchak Luria. Who do we call him? Rav Yitzchak Luria. Who is he? The Ari. Yeah, so the Ari, I think, the second cousin on the other side from his parents, different sides. One side, he had good yichus from the Marshal. Shlomo Luria on the one side related to the Ari, and one side related to the Ramah. I think his mother to the Ramah, to the Ari, and the other on the father's side. Either way, he says in his introduction, just giving a background to understand the Marshal, and we're going to talk about his fight. There was a major clash about a minhag that happened in his day. That the Marshal only wrote a few sarim. He was a tremendous Talmid Chacham, the Gadol Hador in Lithuania of his day, and he wrote Yam Shel Shlomo on Gemara. And he said, look, everybody should be posek halacha according to the way they learned up the topic. Who is this person, Rav Yosef Karo, that's codifying halacha and trying to make halacha easier for people? There's no room to have a book that codifies halacha. Who does he think he is? And he tried to throw Shulchan Aruch out the window. Because he said he's doing a disservice to the Jewish people. He's trying to make halacha easier. Halacha is supposed to be very difficult and hard. Everybody has to figure it out from scratch every single time. You go back to the Gemara, Rashi, Tosfot, you ask all the questions, you come at, that's how you, if you look in his work, he doesn't make it easy. If you read, he gives you long essays. So one of my teachers once said, Rabbi Blau, once said, you know why Shulchan Aruch was popular? Because he made footnotes, he made cliff notes, summaries. He made it short and summaries, to the point. Someone could read Shulchan Aruch and get to the answer very quickly. Marshal made it a little harder because he wanted you to think. He wanted you to figure it out. And he says, also, why did Rabbi Yosef Karo stack the deck? He quoted the Rosh and the Rambam. Rosh is a half a Sfardi, and the Rambam and the Rif are two Sfardis. It's not fair. So he's anti-Shulchan Aruch. He's even anti his cousin, the Ramah. He said the Ramah didn't do any good favors to the Jews either. Because what did he do? He included all the minhagim of Ashkenaz, but he didn't write down all the pilpul of Torah. So everybody should read his book. He said he's a Harif person, the Marshal. He takes on everybody. He takes on, for example, the Ibn Ezra. He says Ibn Ezra wasn't worth the pages that he was written on. Why? Because he's pshad. Who needs pshad? We should only go with Chazal. Very Harif on everybody. Very strict, very harsh words to say. The Marshal or Shlomo Luria. But a tremendous gadol of his generation. So it happened another one of his cousins, this is a second cousin. He's related to just about everybody. One thing. And his lineage comes back from Rashi, and from David HaMelech, the Marshal. He had good yichus. So the Marshal in his generation had the Maram Padua. Maram Padua was a gadol of Ashkenaz, who was a rabbi of a town, and he wrote, and this is just a side point, by the way, he was related to the Rama, he wrote a commentary on the Rambam, and he published the book, and he reprinted the Rambam, a nice reprinting of the Rambam, and he wrote comments, one-line comments on the Rambam, to give footnotes, give sources on the Rambam, and a non-Jewish printer took this, there was no copyrights in the day, in the 1500s, he took it and reprinted it for cheaper, without the comments of the Maram Padua, just a nice printing of the Rambam. And everybody started buying the non-Jewish books because they were cheaper and they were nice. And the Ramah wrote a tshuva that it's not allowed. This is from the beginning of copyright. Yeah, he defended his cousin. Everybody should only buy from the Maram Padua. Why? Because he's a Talmid Chacham. Happens to be the Maram Padua on the Rambam is not famous. The same generation, he did the same thing. Rabbi Yosef Karo's work on the Rambam is a lot more famous. Same type of thing as Maram Padua. That's what Kesef Mishnah. Rabbi Yosef Karo. Anyway, though, in the Maram Padua shul, there used to be a practice as follows. Not to give so many details. I don't know, all the Levy boys on. Okay, we'll say some details. Everybody, we'll listen up. We'll say some details. We'll leave out some details. What was the story? In his shul, there was a practice that the tahar women, all the amazing women, they would go to mikvah. Wonderful. However, there's a halakha discussion. Do you go by night or you go by day? A very important discussion. The mikvah is open by night or mikvah is open by day? Generally speaking, today, all the mikvahs are always usually night. Not day, by night. That's generally the rule. Okay. So in his shul, the mikvah generally, to make it simple, the minhag used to be day. They used to have it open during the day. And the Maram Padua got to the shul, and he became the rabbi, and he said, wait a minute, forget this. That's not the best halakha. The halakha really is night, not day. And what's worse is, yes, Ashkenazim always had a minhag of doing a specific detail during the day. They would chafifa, they would get ready for mikvah during the day. Yeah, but he said, but you know what's so bad is the mikvah in my shul is next door to the shul. There's the mikvah, and it's not even next door. It's in the parking lot. It's the same place. And if they go during the day, everybody sees the woman going to mikvah. That's not Sanoah. They shouldn't put the mikvah right next to the shul unless they're going to go to mikvah at night and everybody's already home. No one should see that the woman go to mikvah. So the Maram Padua said, I have to mevatel this minhag. Forget the minhag. It's bad. They should go at night and forget this nice chumrah that Ashkenazim had to prepare during the day. Look, go at night when it's totally pitch black. That was Maram's first edict when he came to the shul. There was a Rav Rebbe Zalman. There was a Rebbe Zalman in Vilna that wanted to disagree in the 1500s and took on the Maram Padua and said, how dare he break this minhag? The minhag where they go during the day and they're getting ready during the day. It's close, it's near the shul. It's not a big deal. Look, bottom line, this is the minhag. How dare the Maram Padua break the minhag? And one Friday night, some woman came at night, and he saw them coming after they were ready in nightfall. So he stopped the woman. He took a lock. He locked the doors. No one's coming into the mikveh. He wouldn't let them go in. And then the Maram Padua once was traveling out of town, and he made an announcement, everybody come to shul, I want to make a drasha. He made a drasha and said, everybody should know the Maram is wrong. The minhag is right. They're supposed to go by day. That was the way everybody used to do. He's making a big proclamation, and he says the harif words. This you have to be careful. You watch your words. So what does he say? He says the Maram is so wrong that not only is it not allowed to go during the night if they go to mikveh at night, but the tefillah doesn't count. It doesn't work for them to go to mikveh at night, and the children are all mamzerim. Anybody in the family of the Maram Padua, anybody who follows their psak is mamzerim. Not a nice term in English. Not a nice term from illicit relations. And the word got back to Maram Padua that this happened, that not in front of his face, that this rabbi opposed him and was doresh against him and closed the mikveh forcefully against him, and all in the name of minhag. So Maram Padua heard about this, And look what he wanted to do. He was a smart man. He wanted to get the other rabbis on his side. He knew if he just takes on all the Balabatim by himself, he may win, he might lose. So he wrote a letter to a cousin. He wrote a letter to the Marshal, Rishon Luria. Rishon Luria, as we talked about before, usually has Harif words. So what did he write? He wrote a big essay on this topic. During the night, during the day, he explained all, and he said, look, I even know the Rebbe Zalman that we're talking about. He said, I know he's a Yerei Shemaim, and he's a Talmid Chacham. So I don't know why he said what he said. I can't even explain. It seems to be wrong from the Gemara. We should follow. It's basically, it comes out just in terms of the halakha, just in a nutshell. Rashi says, day you prepare, like the Ashkenazim always did. And then the Rambam, Rosh, Rif, generally, all the Sfardim said, Shiltot from the Gonim, night. Night was it. And the Marshal works and works and works. What's the halakha? Probably the Rambam's the better explanation in the Gemara. We should do night. And they said, but maybe, you know what? Maybe Rashi is right. Maybe starting the day is a good idea. He said, but yeah, but even Rashi allows if you need to at night. So he says, what was the big deal? Why are they making a fuss about this? And anyway, of course it's not sanua that they should go where the mikveh is close to the shul and during the day. Of course that's not sanua. Of course that's a problem. He says, but maybe Rabbi Zalman was calling the people mamzerim because they're breaking minhag. So he says, I don't think that's right. He says, you break a minhag if it's against the halakha. So he said he has nothing to stand on, and he says this Rebbe Zalman has to get up in front of the shul and proclaim that he was wrong and he's sorry, and he has to appease the Maharam Padua. Fine. That was the Marshal's opinion on that topic, but it wasn't just the Marshal. They got other people who wrote about this. The Ramah, Ramosha Israelis, also another cousin, I think a first cousin to the Maharam Padua. He wrote on the same topic, same generation. He said also same thing. They're very careful about, they're cautious how do they break a minhag, because you have to be careful if you're going to break a minhag. So what do they write? The Ramah writes, a minhag is only up according to the time that when it was established, for the intention it was established for. But once the intention doesn't apply, once the reason doesn't apply, then it doesn't make sense to keep it anymore. The reason they started it was because they started during the day because of Rashi. They want to be strict. They want to prepare during the day. They want to do during the day mikvah. Fine. But you know what? Over here, it's going to lead to a kulas, and they would never have done such a thing. So he says, out with them minhag. Now, I'm quoting this from Rav Shechter. It's a piece Rav Shechter writes about minhagim, and we're going to discuss this more. But Rav Shechter's point from this Ramah is minhagim can be broken. He in fact quotes Rav Hirsch, says Rav Hirsch, a beautiful quote that says like this. It says, the more holy something is, the more susceptible it is to expiration, becoming wasted. What's his example? He says, korbanot, a korban that's really, really holy, that's chatat, asham, a super holy korban, kachay kachim, they only have 1 day. After that day, it's expired. You can't eat it. It's karet to eat it. And you have less serious kachim kalim, second order, they have 2 days, more time. So the Rav Hirsch said, the minhagim are super kadosh. Yeah, but they expire. When the generation when they're not keeping them, the minhagim you don't have to follow. Now, we'll have to explain when we do that, when we don't. And maybe the first people that stopped following it was wrong. We have to explain. But that's the Ramah and this Marshal about that story. One other story. Once a rabbi, I'm not going to say the name, but a rabbi in a young Israel in New Jersey said he became the rabbi in the shul, and they used to have a minhag after Aleinu to say, I think 3 psukim in Ashkenazim, some Ashkenazim say, Al Kain Lo Tira Mipachad Pitom, that some Ashkenazim say. So in the shul, they had this practice, a minhag, to say those psukim, and the rabbi became the rabbi of the young Israel, the shul, and he didn't like this practice. Why? Because the visitors, people who came in, didn't know this practice, and everybody would say Kaddish right after Aleinu. They would finish Aleinu, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, Yikadav, Yikadash, Mirabah. They would start with the Kaddish, and everybody would shush them, shh, because it's not time for Kaddish. You have to say 2 more psukim in this shul. So you know what the rabbi did? The new rabbi said, I think we should do away with this minhag. And he got up he asked the previous rabbi, does he have his permission? The previous rabbi said, yeah, you have my permission to mevatel this minhag. Okay, so he got up on Shabbat day and he said to everybody, look, Kaddish is more important than these psukim. I'm just going to say in this shul from now on, I'm now the rabbi, we're mevatel the old minhag, and we're going to only start with Kaddish after Aleinu, not with these two psukim. If you want to say them to yourself later, you can. Okay. Somebody, he said, wasn't there, came on Sunday to the shul and was one of the old timers in the shul, missed the announcement. He comes into the shul Sunday morning, and after Aleinu, everybody starts Kaddish, and this old timer in the shul didn't know that they changed the minhag. The new rabbi changed the minhag. So he says, shh, he's trying to quiet everybody. What do you mean? He's quieting everybody because Aleinu is not ready Kaddish. He's supposed to say the two psukim, this person says. And everybody's trying to shushing him back. All right. And there's a little fight that breaks out. And he comes up to the rabbi and says, what happened? I thought we said two psukim before Aleinu in this shul. He says, I'm the rabbi now, and I changed the minhag. He says, what do you mean you changed the minhag? How'd you change the minhag? He said, I got up to the podium, and I said, no more minhag. And the person got furious. He said, what do you mean you changed the minhag? This is a minhag before you were the rabbi. This is a minhag of our shul for many years. And now the person who said this story, the rabbi of the young Israel, the person in New Jersey told me the story. He said that he didn't back down, and the person left the shul. Now, I don't know if that's the best ending of the story, that he should have held his ground, but either way. Question is, how do you know, or not, how do you know when to break a minhag, when not to break a minhag? That was last week we talked about with the Pri Chadash, the Ravadia, and the purists, and the Masas, and the Moroccans, the different approaches the schools last week. We want to talk about now the mechanics. Why is it okay to break a minhag ever? Okay, those are my questions. I'm not going to try to draw the answers. Any thoughts though about the story, as I said, from Marshall or this Rabbi of the Young Israel question? Any opinions on the matter? What would you say if you were living in the days of the Maram Padua? Anything from the Levies? Any ideas?
I'm always bothered when it violates the halacha. I'm always more comfortable keeping with what the Shulchan Aruch said.
Okay.
Not violating.
You're voting, so that would vote. You'd hold on to the Maram Padua type of approach. Look, they had a minhag, but it wasn't so good. It wasn't so they should undo the minhag. Okay.
What was the reason that they did it in the daytime, going to the mikvah? They needed preparation so long?
They need, yes, Rashi's opinion is they should prepare for the mikvah during the day. This way, not so long, but an hour before nightfall. This way they have a lot of time, they're not rushed. In fact, they made a takana because of that story that they should take about an hour to prepare. Now, I don't know if that's exactly, but that's brought all the way in the post-game today because of that story.
Ike, could the weather or could the social, environmental circumstance affect that?
About the
latitude, the climate, about day versus night mikveh?
Okay, it could be. In Germany,
Italy versus Germany. What was that? Sorry?
You're saying in Ashkenaz, it could be that their latitude was very, whatever, in Vilna, it could be it got, night came very late.
Right.
That's why they used to go earlier.
Right.
Could be.
Especially on a Friday maybe or something,
Yeah, could be. Part of it.
So then you'd have an exception. Okay.
Yes. I didn't get to all the details of the mikvah, but there's a lot of back and forth of details, and they talk about maybe they should get non-Jews hold candles at night, whatever. They discuss all the details, how to do it on Shabbat, not Shabbat. They basically said because of this minhag that certain women didn't want to go to mikvah for weeks because they didn't want to go during the day. So when everybody go to shul early on Shabbat, they would go on Motzi Shabbat. They pushed off their mikvah because the whole tumult what they did in Ashkenaz. So anyway, the Maram Padua wanted to undo that minhag. So back now to the sources. So there is, as we said before, the minhagim could change, and I'm going to try to explain this very clearly, because there's a difference between a local minhag and a communal minhag, and that's really what minhag is all about. It's not just about small minhagim, it's really about what binds is Klal Yisrael together. The Marshal, in fact, talks about, same Rav Shlomo Luria, he's talking about the minhag about wearing a kippah. And he says, is tshuva, do you have to wear a kippah? And he says, not absolutely, you don't absolutely strictly need a kippah. And for many Sfaradim, this is what they did. They didn't always wear a kippah in the street. My father tells me after the 6-Day War, it became more acceptable. But that's what for many generations. The Marshal or Shlomo Luria says the same thing. He said, but I'll tell you one thing. It is the minhag, at least by Ashkenaz, it is the minhag to wear a kippah. And he said, I heard about a chacham that used to learn in his study, in his Beit Midrash, a big Talmud chacham, and would learn Gemara, no kippah on. Because he told you don't need to wear a kippah. And he said, look, I understand you don't think you need a kippah, but really, it's going to lead to a bad thing. It's going to lead to the destruction of the universal minhagim of Klal Yisrael, because this is not a minhag that one person has. There's a minhag that many people keep. That they wear at least for learning, at least for tefillah. So if you're not going to keep it, it's going to lead to pritzud. It's going to lead to destruction of the walls of the Jewish community. And that's really, I think, at the crux of what most minhagim are about. It's what binds Klal Yisrael together. Now I have another source here that Rav Schechter explains what is the source of minhag. Why do we keep minhag? Why do we do it? So the classic answer is not what Rav Schechter says. The classic answer is the Shulchan Aruch brings from the Ran that just like we keep minhag, just like we keep a neder. If I vow I'm going to eat donuts tonight, so I better do that. Or I'm not going to eat any pretzels. I'm going on a diet, so I better do that. Neder. However, when I take a practice, even though I don't say the words, it's like I took a neder, and that's why I can even do hatar nedarim to undo it. However, Rav Soloveitchik had an approach from his father based on the Rambam that, and there's an interesting, strange Rambam. The Rambam says when it comes to minhag that's not common, you don't have to keep the minhag. So what is that about? What do you mean if it's not common? So Rav Schechter said, you know why? Why do we keep minhagim? We keep minhagim, and the Rambam basically says this. The source of minhagim is lo tasur, to keep Torah together. We got Torah on Har Sinai. There was no such thing as the individual Torah. Torah was never given to an individual. It wasn't supposed to be that way before Matan Torah, not after. And if anybody comes and says, I don't want to be part of this community, I'm not doing minhagim, well then you know what the Rambam's learning is he's porish midarchei sibur. He's out of what the Torah that was given. Torah was given to Klal Yisrael as a whole. And if we keep minhagim, it means we want to be part of the Jewish people. We want to act like the rest of the Jews. And if something's not common, so you could say, okay, that we can't establish what defines Israel, defines Klal Yisrael, based on something that's not so common. That's why he thinks there has to be a minhag tzibur, but there's no such thing as a minhag yachid, according to the Rambam. However, that's just the classic approach by Rav Schechter from the Rambam. That's what defines minhagim, and therefore I think it will answer why can we talk about minhagim changing over generations? The answer is simple, because minhagim are really just protect, I wouldn't say the culture, but I would say what makes Klal Yisrael unique and special, and that's something that could change. In one generation, what makes a Jew is it looks like this. Another generation is going to look a little different. But the goal of minhagim is to make us all blend together, to come together. So if in one generation what makes Jews look one way could change to being a different thing, a different generation. Okay, that's the basic at the heart how such a thing could happen as a minhag changing. If you go with the neder idea, it could also change just because maybe a vow could change. A vow a person can uproot with hatar and neder. Any questions on what I brought up?
I do have a question. I always had the understanding that minhag was very generational and country specific, and that the concept that the minhag is a siyag la Torah, yes, but that is so universal. How can a minhag in Morocco in 1873 apply to Poland in 1100?
Agreed. It is generational.
We have to differentiate between the types of minhag, I guess.
Yes, that's correct. The Pri Chadash, he has his kuntras on minhagim, and he makes that distinction. A minhag that's accepted by all Jews can't be uprooted, he even says, because that's not just a neder, even according to those who say it's a neder. That's not a neder, that's a definition of being Jewish. He says it could be saying arvid, it could be kippah, whatever they are. It's hard to define exactly. It could be fasting on the minor fast days. Certain things like that are minhag, but they're almost accepted by all Jews, as opposed to things like, kinyo, many other things that are just communal. Those things are communal. The way Rosh Hashanah, I think, would say it,
an example of a
similar
minhag
concept. It's just a branch of, yes, Hashem gave us the Torah as one Klal Yisrael and not the individuals, but Hashem could also give it to a community to say, this is what the Torah is defined for us, but it's still not for individuals. And everybody at Matan Torah had Shevet, had a tribe, and that's, a group of people that they would follow. Is that any clearer?
So a minhag can be Shevet specific. And not necessarily.
The Rizal makes a comparison. He says that the different camps in Israel and Matan Torah, each one had different minhagim, and so too that's what we're supposed to have, different edot. Rav Nachman Mibresov and Rashat quotes this, says from the Zohar that it says Yitzchak asked his son Yaakov, bring me matamim, bring me beautiful spices, and the Zohar says, oh, this is a source for minhagim. What do you mean minhagim? Nice minhagim from a nice whatever, a shish kebab or a shawarma sandwich. What's that about? So says Rav Nachman, he says, spices are, the variety is the spice of life. So for Hashem, variety of minhagim is what makes, so to speak, interesting clients. Hashem wants there to be variety, but a variety to a degree. Okay, back to, I want to answer tie together, I'll take more questions. So the way it could change is assuming either neder or assuming minhagim are based on what defines klal altogether. Now, to answer my original question of why do we have Torah Imecha, the answer is, why is it feminine? The Al-Shech, the student, also 1500s, of Rav Yosef Karo, where the Al-Shech Al Chumash, and also the Chida, a few generations later, he has from his traditions from his grandfather, of Avram Azulai, from the Rav Yosef Karo, certain things. But anyway, the Chida and the Al-Shech, both on Mishlai, say that there's a difference between Musar Avicha, the truths of a father, which are unchanging. Those are Torah Shabbat. Those are fixed. The rules stop here. And that's male, so to speak. When a man is involved in having a child, so they're involved in the beginning, in the conception, and then that's it. Nothing else continues. Obviously, they raise the kids and they do some of the paying the bills, okay? But a mother, it takes it from the conception and brings it through the labor, through the maturity, through the birth, through every step of the way. And that is a development process, taking from the smallest thing and developing it. That's Torah Shabbat Peh. Taking something that's small and it's not defined, doesn't have limits, and wants to develop it and make it flourish. That's the idea of Torah Shabbat Peh. It's the idea of minhag. That's what the Al-Shech says. The Al-Shech is telling us that minhagim are not defined. There's a great Jewish philosopher that goes back 2,000 years that said, praiseworthy is the man that can follow minhag because it shows I have emunah enough to believe even the things which are not written and don't have the exact accurate sources are things that are also definitional, important, and ritual. And it comes from from the cradle. It comes from what defines klal altogether is certain things that we have from our minhag, and that's, I think, very important in the lifeblood of Jews, that we want to follow some things that are communal. So that's why it's called Torah Mecha, is because it's given over by mother to child. It's without sources. It's not rigorous. It's not as defined. It starts at one point and gets developed over time. That's the Torah Shabbat of the mother. That's why it's called Torah Mecha, as minhag. And it can change over generations. Yes, obviously it has to change by Rabbanim has to change. What we said from the Marshal story and the Ramah story, the mikvah, yeah, they were right. They were changing them in Hag, but they were allowed to because it was against Halakhot. Fine. With the young Israel rabbi, okay, it's a question. Each and every case, certain things can change generationally, can change minhag, but it's all about putting all this all together. All right. Thank you so much. Any questions, thoughts, additions?
One question. When can I change personally, like a minhag, by my, when can I do it?
So if it is like a very good question. Okay, Shulchan Aruch says if you want to change change over from Moroccan to Syrian, from Ashkenazi to Sephardi to Taimani, you could do that. However, you have to make a complete change. And he says, like in that generation, you'd move communities. And for our generation, it means making a decision that you're totally changing. But assuming that's not the case, so you can change a personal minhag with a Torah Nedarim. If I took upon myself to stand during Kriyat Torah, which I don't have to do, so I make a Torah Nedarim in front of 3 people. I say, I regret taking this minhag. I don't regret doing the mitzvah. Mutter lach, end of minhag. Or on Rosh Hashanah, or before Rosh Hashanah, Torah Nedarim. If it's a communal practice, it's much harder to change. You need a majority of the community to agree to change the minhag. So if you want to be part of a community, if you want to jump ship, you want to go to a different community, you can. Then you don't need to do so much. It's just a decision. But if you want to stay on ship and you want the ship to change minhag, you need the consensus, a majority of a community change a communal minhag. But globally, yes, it's easy. It's not impossible to change minhag. But let's say with saying certain things in tefillah, korbanot, they change over generations, not by one person, not over one day. But if you look at the Sidur of Aleppo from 1500 till today, it changed many a time. Even Moroccans, all the Sidurim. If you look, they did change. And that's okay, they changed. Rav Avadia changed certain things from the Ben Ish Chaim, from the Persian Sidurim. There's a big, long list of things they changed. All right, is that helpful?
Yes, very helpful. So basically, if let's say I have like a minhag from my, I don't know, especially from my family, doesn't have any source to stand up on. Maybe I can personally code it by myself.
It's going to be, Chum Avadia holds you can, but it's a machloket, as with many things. Pri Chadash brings it down. What do you say with communal minhagim, was our focus tonight? Those are important. Family minhagim, not communal. Family minhagim, not in the rest of the community. So some say it's irrelevant. It doesn't affect it. It's not effective. And some people say it is effective, and you can't break it unless you get some people say you can never break it, and some people say you could break it very easily. Rosh Hashter's opinion you can never break it, but Pri Chadash I believe holds you can. Pirchei Tshuva brings you can. Chum Avadia holds you can. You need Hatar Nedarim, but you can break a family minhag. And they discuss, like it's from a Gemara. Bnei Baishan, children of Baishan, they wouldn't travel on Fridays. They went to Rabbi Yochanan and said, we can't do this. We make all our money, our business is on Friday. How are we going to not work on Friday? They said, well, Bnei Baishan, you guys, your practice was to be machmir. You can't change your practice. So they don't talk about how it's turned into in the Gemara, but the machloket was that a communal minhag or family? So we hold it was a communal. You can't break a communal without consensus, but you can break a family one with just how it turned into.
So without I could just.
A good thing is to double check, whichever minhag it is. So check with the rabbi, check with somebody before you break it, to check with them.
But what about, let's say, I by myself take upon myself something. I don't say anything. I just take it upon myself. I still have to say Atah Nedarim for that?
Generally, yes. If anybody wants to go, thank you so much. Chazak u'Baruch. Anyone wants to stay more, they certainly welcome to. I'm going to finish the recording here. You're certainly welcome to. Sal, we can discuss more.
Thank you, Rabbi Ike.
Thank you, Ike.
Good to have